Brad Pitt recently opened up about his past to, I think it was People magazine. It was Interview magazine. He admitted things like his past mistakes and his journey with sobriety is the reason why he's the person he is today. He says, I value the missteps because they led to some wisdom, which led to something else, and you can't have one without the other. Brad also talks about crying for the first time in 20 years. He thinks it's a good sign, and he's now moved on. He's moved by things like his kids and things that he's just valuing life a little bit more. So I want to throw it out to you ladies at the table. What do you think? Can you learn from your past?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, we would not be who we are until we actually had life, and God bless us with those moments that stop you in your track. But here's the biggest thing. To me, it's not only learning your past and your mistakes, but it's also owning how your mistakes have affected other people. That's the part that you really have to take ownership for. And we don't know his personal life. I'm not into that. But we do know that somehow being married to Jennifer Aniston and then Angelina Jolie, and with 6 kids, I believe.
Yes.
Somehow those marriages ended. So I just hope in that pattern of whatever took place, you own that you affected those lives and that you bear that responsibility to make up for that in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What really got to me was the emotional part, when he talked about how he hadn't opened up and he hasn't cried in 20 years. And I related to that so much. And it hasn't been 20 years for me. But I used to look at emotion as a weakness. And I don't know if that's because of the career being an attorney that I felt like I couldn't open up. I don't know if it's being involved in sports. I just felt like I couldn't give myself in that way, and I looked at it as a sign of weakness. And I remember, I'm a big advocate for therapy and for counseling. And I went to therapy because I had come off a breakup, and the guy that I was dating went to therapy. I thought, okay, I'll go too, but I don't really need it. And I get there, and she says, what's wrong with you? And I go, I just don't know. And I hadn't opened up in such a long time because I was continuing to brush things under the rug over and over and over again. And pretty soon, that rug got so high, everything started to seep out.
Yeah.
And so I am a big advocate of, if you feel it, then express it. Just let it out. There's so much strength in that.
Well, we let it out on this table. I tell you that. Sometimes too much.
Yeah, right. I read a quote once. Let me see if this resonates with you, because it's kind of heavy. But in therapy, it deposited differently. I read it about 4 years ago, and I was like, okay. Didn't really take it. But then after therapy, it hit different. It was, the only toxic relationship you've ever had in your life is with yourself. Everybody else is a reaction of that. Meaning, take ownership. You are the person that permits things to happen to you. You have intuition. You have a gut check. You have a red flag. The more you let that continue and accept it is the more you allow things to happen to yourself. So as soon as you really self-love, self-care, and own who you are, you can start to create those healthy boundaries.
Let them know, Jamie.
Accept or not accept something.
Let them know.
I think also, too, what I've experienced in my life, when you do make mistakes, you know, you're always asking forgiveness, you know, from others or, you know, from God. But I think you can't forget to forgive yourself as well. Growing up in a very religious, you know, household, I was very type A, and I always wanted to live that straight and narrow life that even when I messed up just a little bit, I was really down on myself.
Yeah.
And thank God for God's grace. It's sufficient. And I learned the power of, you know, learning. You know, we are human. You have to forgive yourself, but at the same time, don't take advantage of those mistakes.
Yes.
Own them and learn from them so that you won't repeat them again. And that's a true definition of forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's true. I love it.
I feel like being guarded like that, though, can happen. Like, you can be really guarded and have your guard up, and it's hard sometimes to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think definitely finding someone to talk to or finding a safe group of people that you feel comfortable around sharing those things is so helpful. Find someone to talk to.
Yes.
Find someone you can cry with. That's so important.